On episode 290 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Leonard Leinow and discuss his book, CBD, A Patient's Guide to Medicinal Cannabis, Healing Without the High. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/290. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Hello, and thank you so much for being a part of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. I'm really glad to have you here today. Today we're going to have a very interesting topic, CBD. It's not a product that I've ever used. It's not something that I've had any familiarity with until I read this book and had this conversation with Leonard. So it's a very interesting topic to me, even though it's something right now that I really can't work with, given the state that I live in. I'm pretty sure over time it is going to become more accepted for its health and wellness opportunities. And Leonard is kind of the expert on this. For over 3 decades, he's been working with growing and studying medical cannabis. And in particular, he's really into understanding CBD and the properties that it has in our bodies. And so this was a very, very interesting conversation, and I'm really looking forward to turning you over there. But before we jump over, I just wanted to let you know, I know, we're into the holiday season. I do hope that everything's going well for you. I'll be traveling back home to see family. Really looking forward to that. My brother opened up a brewery in Asheville, North Carolina. And so I'm looking forward to going up to North Carolina and visiting him and his new brew pub. And so that's going to be really interesting to be up there. So yes, I will probably have a couple of brews while I'm up there. That's all part of the season. And I know, you're into this season as well. And I do hope that you listened to last week's episode where I talked about making it through the holiday seasons healthy and well. And if you didn't, I encourage you, after you listen to this episode, please do go back and check that one out, because I think it's important for us to keep those strategies top of mind. But with no further ado, here's Leonard Leinow. So Leonard, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I've heard a lot and read a lot about CBD. And it is kind of one of those substances that it goes along with, it's part of the cannabis. It's, I knew it was different. It's not getting you high. It has some other properties, relaxation and some other things that people experience when they take this. And some people get affected differently, which is kind of what I've heard about anybody that uses cannabis. They're all going to be impacted slightly differently. But what I liked about the book was that it was no nonsense, but you had science backing. It was very deep and in-depth, so it didn't just gloss over certain portions of this and say, yeah, you can just do pot brownies and you can be fine. The reality is you talked about the propensity to get too much that way, and you talked about how you're not going to die from it. You just feel really, really bad for a while. But I just liked how you kind of put everything together in a way that someone that really wants to learn about this substance and how the properties for what it can do for you and why it can do those things, it's all in this book. It's very comprehensive.
Well, thank you. The reason I wrote the book is really because I get so many phone calls from people every day, like, I heard about CBD. What is it? How do I use it? What dose do I take? Is it good for this disease, that disease? And I was getting the same questions over and over again. I thought, well, I'll just put all this information into a book where a larger audience can look at it and figure it out. And I tried to put it together in a way that somebody who doesn't know anything about the subject could pick it up and easily figure out maybe not a dose exactly, because it is a little different for each person, but figure out a protocol where you could start small and titrate up and find out what dose might work best for them. So it gives them a path to experience it, and hopefully like we're holding their hand and they feel a little more comfortable, because we have done a lot of research and because no one has ever died in the written history of 5,000 years on the use of this herb. No one has ever died from an overdose of it.
Now, a lot of people, when they hear about CBD and they say, okay, well, that's cannabis, and then cannabis, marijuana is another name for it. They think that, okay, you're going to get high. That's what this is all about. Because we know, I think it was glaucoma was the kind of the running joke when I was growing up was, if you have glaucoma, you could probably get some marijuana for that. So everybody's getting glaucoma all of a sudden. But this is actually called Healing. You have a subtitle of the book, which is CBD, A Patient's Guide to Medicinal Cannabis. But in the book, the subtitle is Healing Without the High. So could you give us a little bit of understanding of what are some of the substances that are in cannabis to include CBD and the other parts, THC and whatnot, and what the differences are in those substances?
I like the word cannabis, not marijuana, and I never use pot or weed, but the scientific word is cannabis. And so we're looking at it from a scientific standpoint. It's a very complicated herb substance, and it has inside of it a number of different cannabinoids, as well as terpenes and other types of chemicals. So a terpene gives it the aroma, the smell, and it does have some medicinal qualities, but most of the medicinal qualities are in the cannabinoids. So THC is the most famous cannabinoid. It's the one that gets you high. THCA is when it grows up in the plant, it's in the acid form. That's what the A stands for. THCA is not psychoactive. It has medicinal qualities. It's anti-inflammatory. But as soon as you heat that, it becomes THC, and that does have psychoactive properties. Most people, if they want to get high, they either smoke it and it goes into their lungs and then into their bloodstream and into their brain, and they're getting a psychoactive experience out of it, taking it that way. The other way they could take it might be an oral ingestion, a capsule, a tincture, some way it's going in their mouth, a brownie, an edible. It goes in, it gets processed by the digestive system and ends up in the liver, and it gets converted by the liver goes from delta-9 THC to a hydroxy-11. It's another form of THC that's actually much stronger. So those methods will get one high or has a psychoactive component. However, if they're using it as a balm or a salve, some application they're putting on their skin, say they have arthritis in their fingers or in their joints or pain or swelling or inflammation, that will not get them high. Pure THC going through the skin will not get them high. Doesn't get into the bloodstream. Taking it as a suppository will not get them high. It goes throughout the body. I think it goes through the lymph glands, through the lymphatic system, but it doesn't get into the blood and it doesn't get into the liver. But I've seen people use it for treatment of things like cancer that is spread throughout the body and actually have very good curing abilities, and they can take very high doses and not get high from it. So it is possible to take THC and not get high. Now, in addition to THC, there's 110 other cannabinoids. The first one on the list is CBD, cannabidiol. CBD does not get you high, even in large quantities. CBD doesn't get you high. Taking it orally or ingesting it or smoking it won't get you high. It does have a large number of medicinal properties. The list is quite long. It almost looks like a cure-all for everything. It's not a cure-all, but it does have medicinal benefits for a lot of things. But in addition to CBD, there's CBG, CBC, CBN, and on and on and on, THCV. It's a long list, and they're discovering more and more every day. So it's over 100 now of the other cannabinoids that they're discovering, and that kind of research is still to be done. We don't know exactly what all of these cannabinoids do, but we do know that if you take it naturally in the plant form, not pharmaceutically made artificially, but in a natural, well-balanced whole plant medicine as a tincture. I'm a big fan of taking it orally or suppositories, not so much smoking it or using a vaporizer, although that does have good applications. But if you're doing the whole plant, you're getting the medicinal aspects in as a balanced medicine. So Raphael Mecholim, the Israeli scientist that found CBD and THC and identified it, says that when you're taking it all together, you get an entourage effect. He coined that word, entourage. So you get all the different cannabinoids working together like a family. And so you don't just have THC that you're getting high from. THC might be psychoactive and get you high, but CBD is anti-psychoactive, and it's working to bring you down off of that high. So the high gets mitigated and balanced out. So it's almost like I consider THC the masculine aspect of the plant, and CBD is the feminine. It's kind of like embracing you and holding you and grounding you on a cellular level. It's taking that cell and just helping that cell relax and release stress. CBD is anti-stress medicine. And so all the diseases that we have these days, and when I say all the major ones, including cancer, I think are stress related. And our society, these days is just there's so much more stress. It's much more complicated. The energy is so intense. People find there's so much stuff going on. And as we age, our body naturally needs something that's going to help us relax, de-stress, anxiety or whatever. Anti-inflammatory. CBD is very good at anti-inflammatory properties, and inflation causes so many diseases. So if somebody were to add CBD into their diet or their protocol of herbs that they take, I think as one gets older, it becomes much more important for them just to keep their body balanced and their life balanced, help them sleep better.
And what you said makes a lot of sense, is that the entourage effect of these things, then the basis of some of the plants are going to have more of a CBD to THC ratio, and that's going to make the plant affect you slightly differently. And so I've heard over time, and they like to name the varieties that they cultivate. And so one variety is a little bit more this and one's a little bit more that. And that's just really the ratios of those different elements, right?
Yeah, pretty much the ratios of the cannabinoids along with the terpenes. And they don't really talk much about the terpenes, but when you look at, the major category differential that they'll talk about, I break it into three. You've got sativa, THC of the sativa type. You've got indica, THC indica, and you've got CBD varieties. So the sativa is more stimulating, and most of the sativas come from the equatorial part of the planet, like Mexico and down there, and they're more stimulating, which might be good if you have a loss of appetite and you want to stimulate your appetite, but it could give you the munchies and might have a side effect you don't like, but it's raising the energy up. Indicas are lowering the energy down, and they come from India, up in the mountains of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and those areas. So indicas are relaxing. So I just think of it moving the energy down from lowering it. So what is that good for? That's good for sleep. It's good for somebody wants to lose weight, it's kind of helps them with their diet. It's kind of lowering their appetite. Pain is the big one that it's used for. Pain and sleep and anti-inflammatory stuff. But it's a THC variety, so it does have a psychoactive component potentially. CBD, the third category, doesn't have a psychoactive component. There's no way you could make CBD, CBDA, any of the CBD cannabinoids, there's no way you could make that psychoactive. So CBD does have I don't know the word, but, it lowers your appetite. So somebody, if they want to lose weight, CBD will help them lose weight. I have people that have dropped weight using CBD, and they have not put it back on. They just don't have a desire to eat anymore. They kind of stop eating when their body says it's full, and it's like really a good weight loss thing. So for obesity, a CBD is really good for obesity. And on a cellular level, it's helping that cell relax. It's releasing the stress that's in the cell. So all of these other diseases that people get that are autoimmune diseases, diabetes, Alzheimer's, CBD is really good for those kinds of diseases, and pain, anti-addiction problems, anything you might be addicted to, like pain pills. CBD is really good for having the body physically break that addiction quality.
Okay. Well, I would like to dive in just a little bit deeper. You've kind of mentioned obesity and diabetes. Now, I can definitely understand how if CBD is going to have an appetite suppressing nature to it, that obviously that's going to allow you to modify how much you eat and how frequent you eat. And therefore, you're going to have this opportunity to lose weight. But how does it impact diabetes other than the obesity aspects of it?
Well, it has to do with the sugar balance in the blood. And, I don't know exactly what is happening chemically in the body, but I do know that people have reported back to me that their diabetes is getting better. It's moving in the direction of balancing out that system in the body. So it's just something we've seen. And I can't cite the exact research on it, but I think it's in the book. We cover that aspect of it. So it does have an effect on diabetes. I know personally my grandmother had diabetes, so it's something that's on my radar. And I know that when I get my blood tested and all of that, it's not showing up. So it's kind of like I'm nipping it in the bud. And I do use CBD, so I'm sort of a test case for it. But basically, I'm looking at, we have a collective that has probably close to 5,000 members now. And mostly we're CBD oriented, and people are coming back and saying, hey, it's helping my diabetes.
My hopes are, and we talked about this before we got on the call, was that as things relax a little bit on this, that they will take some time to spend a little bit more time studying these substances and what they're doing for us and what they can do for us. You went through a few, we talked about diabetes, obesity, cancer, and then just the aspects of it being anti-inflammatory. One of the other ones you had in the book, which I thought was really interesting, was Alzheimer's.
Right. Alzheimer's is another one that we found that it's helping quite a bit. And I think that the research that I've seen on Alzheimer's has been, it will help somebody who has Alzheimer's, but better yet, it'll prevent somebody from getting Alzheimer's. So if somebody is using CBD before they get Alzheimer's, they don't get it. And I think that's another one that I probably have in my history. Not Alzheimer's, but I think my mom had a bit of dementia. So I'm concerned. And hey, if I can do something now to prevent it from coming. So I'm using myself as a reference because our talk is about people over 40, right?
Yeah.
I'm 74. And people meet me and they think I'm 50 or maybe whatever, early, a lot younger than 74 because I look like it, I act like it, I think like it. And it's just a number, 74. But I don't intend to get old. I don't intend to let my facilities go downhill. And I'm using CBD to keep that alive. And I'm concerned about diabetes just because I have a history there. And it's working on me.
Yeah. Now, another thing you mentioned, it was in the book, and we talked about before we got on, was how it can help with sleep.
Right. It does help with sleep. And I wouldn't say it's as good as some of the pharmaceutical sleep aids that are out there, but it works in a different way. And again, it's that anti-stress thing. And I use it every night before I go to bed because it does help me sleep. And it's just, when I use it, it's like my mind relaxes and it's not churning over some problem that I have. And it's just like exhaling and now I can relax. And the CBD helps me relax. And therefore, I can go to sleep easier. I sleep longer. And I don't, and if I have to get up and pee in the middle of the night, I can go back to sleep. And CBD really helps with that. Now, I think that if you look at a large population and you're comparing CBD to use of THC for sleep, like an indica, that's very relaxing, I'm told that indica, THC actually helps people sleep more because it'll knock them out. A lot of people, it'll just really help them sleep. But personally, I found that THC, any form of it, even indica, in my body, does not help me sleep. It makes my mind active. And doesn't bother me, but it certainly doesn't help me sleep if my mind is active. So I've learned that for me, CBD helps me sleep. And I don't have to worry about psychoactivity. If somebody were taking something that's psychoactive and they have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom, they might have a balance problem or whatever. They have to be careful about it. But CBD, no problem at all. And I actually find I don't have to get up and pee in the middle of the night if I'm doing CBD. It's kind of relaxing the bladder and that whole system. It's just, I can sleep through the whole night. I don't know why, but it works with me and it works with most people. And I'm touching on the subject of how everybody's a little bit different. And when I say indicas are relaxing and sativas are stimulating, what I mean is, to be more articulate about that, in 75% of the people, they have found this in general to be true. Sativas are more stimulating and indicas are more relaxing and CBDs are not psychoactive and have all these properties. But in reality, there's still 10 or 15% who find they're wired backwards and indicas are stimulating and sativas are relaxing or CBD does this. And then 10% of them has no effect on them at all. So it's a generalization. And that's all we can do. Everybody's a little bit different. Even each person is a little bit different from day to day based on what they're eating, their body chemistry, what kind of stress is in their life, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many factors that go to make somebody a complete person. One day you might need this for a dose, and another day you might need that for a dose or a different strain, which is why my book talks about different strains. A little bit. I think I showcase 12 or 14 different strains just to give people an idea of the major accepted strains that are out there that we're working with. Some growers, if you grow it and you develop a new strain, you have a right to name it. So we're seeing new names pop up. But basically, we're trying to cover the basis of these are the ones that have been around for a while. And this is what people think about them. This is what they're good for. They've shown to be good for this and that and the other things. So in general, indicas are good for sleep. CBD is good for sleep. And if you can get a CBD strain that is leaning in the indica direction, then that'll be a good one for sleep.
Excellent. Now, we talked briefly a little bit at the early part about the different ways that you can deliver to your system. I think most people would be familiar with the smoking because, as an herb, that's kind of where I think most people, if they've experienced, that's probably how they experienced it, or they know that's how it's experienced. Could you talk about the different delivery methods and kind of the pros and cons of each?
Sure. Smoking is the most familiar because that's what people used to do, back in, historically. In our country, anyhow. Other countries, they've done different methods. But when you smoke it, first of all, the CBDA or THCA converts to THC and CBD. That process is called decarboxylation. It knocks off the acid portion of that molecule. And it goes into your lungs and then into your bloodstream. And the uptake of the medicine is within 30 seconds. It's in your system. It gets into your brain. The onset is very quick. So if somebody wanted, if somebody had pain or a headache or, something, and they just wanted it effect right now, they would smoke it or vaporize it. So a vaporizer, what that means, when you put a match to something and smoke it, the match is at 450 degrees. But when you inhale it, that extra oxygen is like putting a bellows on it, and that can get up to maybe 2,000 degrees, so it's pretty hot. When you vaporize it, that means that your temperature is controlled. You're cooking it electronically at 380 to 400 degrees. Some vaporizers have a way to adjust the temperature, but you're cooking it well below the 450 degrees, so it's a lower temperature. And they say it's safer. You're not getting as much toxicity in your system if you're going that route. Safer meaning cleaner, healthier way to take it. But it still has that quick uptake time-wise where you're getting, within a minute, you're getting the medicinal effects. That's on the positive. And that'll last for 2 to 3 hours. So I kind of look at it as a curve where it goes up pretty quick and then it starts to drop off fairly quickly. So you get a good 2 to 3 hour medicinal effect. When you take it orally, like a tincture, a capsule, or some way you're putting it in your mouth. It takes 45 minutes for your system to digest it. Or if you put it under your tongue and doing a sublingual, maybe a half hour, you can speed up the way it gets into your system. But it's going to have a longer effect. It's going to last 6 to 8 hours. If you got the right dose, you got an 8-hour experience of medicinal effects. So if you're working with pain and you want to get a longer period on it, you're going to want to take it orally.
Yeah, that also sounds like it. If you were going to be using it for sleep, that would probably be the better route as well.
If you're using it for sleep, you want to do it orally. Now, some people who are in a lot of pain might want to vaporize. We always, I'm going to use the word smoke, but I really mean vaporize. So people are going to want to maybe get that medicinal effect right now and then want to hold that for 6 to 8 hours. So they would take it, vaporize it, and also take it orally so that when that oral medicine is coming on, the other one's kind of wearing off a little bit. So it holds you at that level of medication for a longer period of time. So somebody could do it twice a day or 3 times a day. If they've got it in their system, they don't need to smoke it every time, but they could do it twice a day to 3 times a day. We're a big fan of tinctures, and you can count the drops. That's why I like tinctures. It's like I can do 10 drops or 12 drops. I can tell exactly how much I'm getting and monitor it and do it twice a day. So when it's starting to wear off, I can do another little dose to keep me up there at that level of medication. So it's a good way to monitor it throughout the day.
Now, you also mentioned, like, let's say I've got arthritis in my hands. I can actually rub this on my hands and get some localized pain relief, but it won't get into my bloodstream.
That's true. So it won't get into your bloodstream. You're not going to get high from it. I like a 1-to-1 mixture, CBD to THC for a salve. The thing to know about a salve or any kind of topical application is that going through the skin, it will penetrate maybe a half inch, 3/4 of an inch through the skin, maybe up to an inch. So like fingers, knuckles, maybe your elbow joint or muscles that are close to the skin, it will get in there and work on them. It's anti-inflammatory. It'll help work with the pain. But if it's in your hip or somewhere that's like deep down, it's not going to get there going topically. You got to take something internal. You got to swallow something to get that.
And then you had in there also the patch, which, I know people that smoke and want to stop smoking, they'll use a nicotine patch. And obviously the nicotine patch does actually get it into your blood system, because that's part of the whole idea of the patch, is it's satiating that nicotine addiction so that you're able to tone that down over time. But you also can use a patch with CBD.
Well, that's true. And they're not quite popular yet, but they're gaining popularity. The good thing about a patch is it's a continuous application. It won't absorb all at once. Like if you put on a salve, after 20 minutes or something, it's gone. But a patch will last, 6 hours or 8 hours. It'll be giving you medicinal effect, and it does get throughout the body. I don't know if it gets into your bloodstream. I haven't seen evidence of that. Some doctors have been measuring the bloodstream because a patch is basically a topical application.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get to, is that's the one thing I didn't get in the book as I was going through the delivery methods, was if the salve can't get through to your blood, how does a patch actually work? And that wasn't here, but that was a question I wrapped in my mind.
I think that's research that needs to be done, and I don't know that I can answer you exactly how it works, but I think it's the same way as doing a suppository. How does it get throughout the system if it's not going through the blood? I think it goes through the lymphatic system, and it's an oil that the body's taking up, and it processes it differently. But I've talked to doctors who've, measured the blood content and saying, well, hey, it's not getting into the blood, therefore it's not working, or they don't see how it works. But I have seen, and I know people that were doing suppository applications for stage 4 cancer that spread throughout their body, and 95% of their cancer was gone just from doing a suppository application, but it wasn't getting into their blood. I'm talking about THC application. And they would have been getting high from massive doses that they were taking, but they weren't getting high. It wasn't going into the blood, but it was curing their body all throughout the body, many, many, many different parts of the body. So I think that's research that still needs to be done. I'm not going to say I know the answer of how that's the mechanism that's happening, but I have seen it happen.
That's cool. I mean, it's just knowing that it works and that it's not something that you have to smoke. There are other options for how you take it, and there are valid reasons for why you would opt for one versus the other, be it the speed with which it gets in your system or how long it lasts in your system, or just the ability to properly dose. I mean, all of those are criteria that you would want to consider when you're going to do something like this.
You mentioned dosing, which I just want to touch on for a second. Dosing is critical with this. We always recommend that when people start out, that they start small, and small meaning try and figure out what your target dose might be, and then start maybe at a quarter of that, and do that for a couple of days, and then go up to maybe a half, and then maybe, slowly raise your dose. But don't take it and then take some more and then take some more all in the same day, trying to figure out what works. But take a week or two to try and figure out what the proper dose might be for you. And I do in the book have a chart that for people that have never had it before, one of the criteria is how much do you weigh? And it's not the best criteria, but not knowing anything else, let's start with that. So somebody weighs so many pounds, they got this disease, they're looking at, I got 3 different charts in there, one for microdosing, one for standard dosing, and one for macrodosing. So microdosing might be sleep issues, some of them minor issues. Pain might be in the standard dosing, and things like cancer, heavier diseases, epilepsy might be in the macro or larger dosing. So find your weight and then find out what a good target dose might be, and then that'll give you a place to start. The real determining factor of how much to use is what do you as an individual, how sensitive is your body? What's going to work for you? And there's no way that anyone can tell you, you must start with so many milligrams of CBD. It's something that you have to experience to find out. So start low, work your way up. Even though you're not going to get high from CBD, we still recommend start low, titrate up slowly, find the dose that best works for you. And then at least I'm trying to help them feel more comfortable, hold their hand to start them. If they start small, they're not going to have a bad experience. What I don't want to happen is have somebody take too much and go, wow, that was horrible. I'm never doing that again. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So many people have, some disease, and friend comes along and wants to help and go, here, eat this brownie. It'll help you. And they eat it, and it's like way too much. And brownies, like it lasts forever. Not forever, but 12 hours. And we're trying to avoid that. That's why I have a chart, and always go small. Even if you've been doing it for a while and you're at a dose and that dose is no longer working for you, our mindset is more is better. That is not true with cannabis. Try going less. Try taking a smaller dose. See what that does. Try changing the strain. What if I have a different mix-up of the terpenes and the cannabinoids that the body will think, oh, this is a new substance, and it'll react differently to it. Or take a break from it. If it's not working, just stop it 3 days or 4 days, a tolerance break, and then come back to it, and the body will go, oh, yeah, we like this.
We like this, yeah. Now, we talked about this, and one of the core benefits is the inflammation and the pain aspects of this. And you cannot turn on the television today without hearing something about opioids, the crisis or epidemic or whatever. But it obviously, opioids are overprescribed, and too many people are getting addicted to them. And it's leading to some big problems, I think, globally, but particularly here in North America. How cannabis and CBD be utilized in a way that probably help a lot of people get away from the opioid substances?
You're touching on a subject that's actually know a lot about. We work pretty closely with Dr. Michael Moskowitz, who wrote part of my book. He wrote this section on what does CBD do in the body, and he wrote the foreword to the book. He has a Bay Area pain clinic, so he's He calls himself the boneyard of pain victims in the Bay Area. Any doctors who have people in pain and they can't do anything more for them, they kind of send them to him. So he's been working a lot with us with cannabis and CBD in particular for opioid problems, addictions in particular. And a lot of people are on opioids and they're just not working anymore. So what I love about him is he's a great researcher and really tracks the information of feedback from his clients. So he's been giving people cannabis, recommending that they try cannabis and see how it works, and then tracking the responses. He's found that 81.4% of the people who try cannabis, CBD in particular, are having some level of success. 81.4%. They're getting pain reduction. They're able to reduce their opioid intake, and they're feeling better. They're not having the side effects. So they're slowly switching from doing the opioid. You can't cold turkey and go off of an opioid. Your body's addicted to it. So you got to reduce it slowly. But as they start reducing it, they have CBD to replace it, and they're getting some benefit. Now, not everyone's able to get off of the opioids altogether, but a large percentage are. But 81.4%.
Well, no, I actually want to put this in context because I'm a numbers guy, and I can tell you, you're saying 81.4%, and that's a big number. But the clients he's seeing, the patients he's seeing, are not your average bell curve. These are the folks that are over on the wrong end of this curve. And so he's getting 81.4% of the hard cases, not all the cases. And so his percentage, if he saw a normal client mix, would probably be significantly higher.
That's true. But you asked me about addiction, opioids and addiction. So I was referencing him because he's got the addicted people.
Right. And so they're looking for a way to get over it, and this helps.
My experience of CBD is that it helps people get off of addiction. So any kind of addiction, the body doesn't have the desire for it anymore. It really does work. And I think it is the answer for our opioid crisis.
Yeah, and Dr. Muskowitz, he did write that chapter on the science. He also wrote the foreword. And I can tell you, it was, for me, kind of liking to geek out on some of this stuff. When you get out there and you understand, okay, these substances we're talking about, these plant substances, are basically mirror elements of what we already have in our brain. And basically, it allows your brain to do certain things that your body would just naturally do if you happen to have enough of that substance. And this is just kind of adding something that's still very close, if not genuine, to what our bodies already have. So it's a much healthier way to basically get pain management than a lot of what's on the market today from a medication perspective.
That's true. And just for a second, I want to plug Dr. Moskowitz's new book that he wrote. I think it's coming out in about 2 months. But he's written a book about cannabis, and it sort of covers a lot of the same topics I cover, but in a different way. And the two books together really cover a lot of the subject. But the opioid crisis, I think, there is an answer. And it's not in the pharmaceutical companies. It's going back to a natural herb. Unfortunately, our government doesn't recognize this as a natural herb. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. You mentioned how it's close to our body. Our body does have something called an endocannabinoid system that they discovered, 30 years ago. Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, the Israeli scientist who identified CBD and THC, identified what it's doing in the body. So the body has an endocannabinoid system. And to me, that means that the body is already pre-wired for cannabis, because the CBD and the THC triggers receptors in that system, and it turns a switch and the system lights up and it does different things. Basically, the endocannabinoid system controls all the other organs and all the other systems in the body. So it's an overriding system that controls everything else in the body. When that's in balance, all the body's working, functioning normally, naturally, in a balanced way. All your other systems, your nervous system, your musculoskeletal system, all the other systems in the body, all the organs in the body are working at their optimum level. The cannabis and the CBD keep those systems working at an optimum level. When something gets out of balance, it can throw inflammation starts happening, all these other diseases start happening. And CBD is kind of working not on that disease directly, but working at a higher level on what's causing the system to get out of balance. So it's really putting the body back into a balanced state. I like to say CBD allows the body to heal itself. The body knows how to heal itself. All we have to do is allow it to work in a way it should be working. So CBD just kind of puts it back in a state of balance.
Now, I am going to ask you one more question before you get out of here. I had a conversation when they started allowing more use of cannabis, particularly in Colorado, and I guess initially, and then Washington State. And then, of course, medically, they're allowing it in more and more states. I think you said in the book 16 states allow some form of medical use of cannabis.
Might be 17 now. That's a moving number.
Yeah. I figured it was because by the time it gets printed, it's outdated. But that said, I asked one of our compliance officers in our company that I work for. I said, well, if someone goes to a state like Colorado where cannabis is legal and uses the product, and then we do a drug test on they work for us, and they fail a drug test, what are we going to end up doing? And he said, well, we would fire them. And that's one of the reasons I've kind of stayed away from these substances is because, well, I actually do like having a job. And if they're going to drug test occasionally, I would hate to be using a substance that would get me fired. Obviously, if I was dealing with something like cancer or something like that, then I would say, okay, my health is more important than my job. But that not being necessarily the case, if someone is just using the pure CBD, are they going to fail a drug test for cannabis?
And that's a hard question to answer. Depends on the state that you're in. If you're in a state where CBD is illegal, then that might be true. But if you're in a state where CBD is legal, there's a number of states where CBD is legal but not THC, and you're just using CBD, you're not going to fail a drug test because you don't have THC in your system. But I don't want to make a blanket statement. I don't know anybody personally that's failed a drug test, and it does stay in your system from a testing perspective. It does stay in your system for a while. Medicinally, it's like in there for 24 hours, but does linger on could be up to 30 days.
I've had one company that did hair tests. They actually, which was kind of funny because I don't actually have hair on my head, but I won't get into where they got the hair from. But they actually tested hair because that allowed them to test for a much longer period of time for certain substances. So
you're in Louisiana?
Yeah, I currently work in this area. Yeah. So we're probably a long way away from it being allowed here, but it is a substance that I think could benefit quite a few people. And as it kind of moves around and things liberalize a little bit around this substance, because like you said, 5,000 years, there hasn't been an overdose, there hasn't been a problem. We're dealing with an opioid crisis, as you will. And so here's an opportunity to help people by just kind of liberalizing the laws and making them work for us rather than against us. So, Leonard, this has been such a fabulous conversation. I really did enjoy the book, CBD, A Patient's Guide to Medicinal Cannabis. It is really a fascinating topic. This is a great book for anyone that wants to learn more about this substance and how it works and how you can use it. And like you said, you got all the dosing and everything to walk us through our experimentation with this substance to do quite a bit for us if we're willing to step out on that and give it a try. So thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
Well, it's been my pleasure. It's really been a good conversation for me too, to be able to talk about it and hopefully help people. I don't know what the laws of Louisiana are. Is CBD allowed there?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and I could move, and that'd be the other option is, that might just be in my cards for the near future. But all that said, if someone wanted to reach out to you to learn more about you, to learn more about the book, where would you like for me to send them?
The best way to reach me would be to send me an email, and we do have a website. So CBD is Synergy Wellness is the name of my company. So our website is synergycbd.com, SYNERGY CBD.com. And my email address is leonard at synergycbd.com. And that's the best way to reach me.
Okay, cool. Well, this is going to be episode 289. So you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/289, and I'll be sure to have a link to Leonard's website and his email address there. So again, Leonard, thank you so much.
Also, if people want to buy the book from us and they go to my website, we do sell the book here, and I will sign a copy if they want a signed copy. So that's another reason to go to our website.
Awesome. Thank you. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you please take the time to give us a social share? You can post the link to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/podcast and let everyone know about all the good things we're doing over here at 40 Plus Fitness. I appreciate it. Thank you. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, I share 11 best home gym equipment suggestions. Until then, have a happy and healthy day.